Hey class, so we're just going to go over lesson 4, which is finding the missing angle given two sides. What you're going to be able to know how to do by the end of this lesson is find the missing angle of the right side triangle if you're given two sides. And how you can do this is, first we need to talk about what trig ratios actually mean. What trig ratios actually are their comparison of side lengths. So sine 30 is always going to be 0.5, so we know that our sides in a triangle, if the angle is 30, at some level they're always going to be 1/2, the hypotenuse, right? We're always going to know what the side length is. So because of this, you can actually compare and use those terms in order to find out, if we're given the ratio, you can find out what the angle is, right? How you need to do this is that you need to bring sine or cosine to the other side. So if you have something like sine A equals 0.48, you need to be able to get rid of sine. How you get rid of sine is you actually end up taking the inverse of cosine, sine, or tangent. And if you go into your calculator, more often than not, you have the sine, cosine, tan. So sine, cosine, tan is what we use when we're trying to find out what the ratio is. But if we want to find out what the angle is, you're going to do sine and then whatever the number is. So sine to the -1. So I'm just going to write that in here. It's going to look something like sine -1, cosine -1, or tangent -1. And I know this might seem a little complicated, but once we start doing the questions, it'll make sense. So if you want to determine the value of the angle, we want to get this A on its own. And in order to get rid of that A on its own, you need to get the opposite of sine. So what you're going to do is you're going to do sine A, and in brackets, you're going to do sine inverse to get rid of the sine over here, which means that on this side, you're going to do sine inverse 0.78. So I'm going to go into my calculator and I'm going to say, okay, sine inverse, and then I'm just going to go put in 0.78, and I want to actually delete. And when you're using your own calculator, it's obviously going to be better. And then you're left with 51.26. For angles, we like to just round it to the nearest whole number. So our angle here, angle A, is going to be equal to 51, and angles are always in degrees. Okay? So try doing B on your own, and then come back and watch it with us. All right, so hopefully you pause the video. So tan A, we want to get the inverse tan. So we're going to say to get rid of that tan in front of the A, we're going to do tan inverse. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So we're going to do tan inverse of 1, and I'm just going to go in here to my calculator and say, okay, clear everything. Second function, tan inverse 0. It's just 1, sorry. Tan 1, and the answer to that is 45. That means that angle A is equal to 45 degrees. So the steps for determining the value of an angle if you're given two sides of a right triangle are as follows. So this is kind of a step-by-step. We can always use these steps to do our problems. First things first, locate the angle you're trying to find. Then label the sides of your triangle. So label it hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. Then decide on which one you can use given what you have. So if you're given the opposite and the hypotenuse, use sine. If you're given the adjacent and the hypotenuse, use cosine. If you're given the opposite and the adjacent, use tangent, just depending on which one you can use. Then just plug in all the values and solve for the angle. Okay, so let's try it. I know there's a lot that just happened here. There's a lot of words that I just said. The best way to do this is to actually do the math. So let's go. Step 1 is going to be determining what angle we're going to use. So we're finding angle X, right? So this is going to be the angle that we're using. Step 2, right? So step 1, find angle. We did that. Step 2 is going to be label the opposite. So this is opposite. The hypotenuse is going to be 12, right? And this is the adjacent. So in this situation, we have both the opposite and the hypotenuse. If I go back and look at SOHCAHTOA, I have the opposite and the hypotenuse, so I should use sine. So let's use sine. Sine theta, or sine x, is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So let's go ahead and plug things in now. So sine x, we don't know what it is. Our opposite side is 7. Our hypotenuse is 12. So let's go solve and make that easier for ourselves. Sine x is equal to 7 divided by 12, which is just going to be 0.5833, right? And now I want to get rid of the sign on this side, so I'm going to do sine inverse, which means I'm going to do the same thing here, sine inverse, right? So let's do that. Sine inverse, so I'm going to go clear this. My second function, sine inverse, 0.58, and we'll do 333, right? Just as many 3's as we can. And our answer is right here. It's 35.68. And again, we're going to try to go to the nearest decimal place, or nearest whole number. So instead of 35, it's going to be x is equal to 36 degrees. And we always like to write therefore statements. Therefore, the angle x is 36 degrees. Okay, and that's the answer. So let's try doing B by yourself and C as well by yourself. The more you practice doing these on your own, the better you will be at answering the questions. And then we can go back and take them up together. So hopefully pause the video here, right? And we'll come back, right? All right, so welcome back. Hopefully you pause the video. Let's go step by step and do this one as well. So again, our first step is going to be find out our angle of reference, done, right? Our second step is going to be find out, and let's go label. So 1, find x, 2, label. Right? So let's go label. The opposite is here. This is the hypotenuse, and this is the adjacent. Right? So label HOA. Now let's determine. I'm given what? What am I given? I'm given the adjacent side. So I'm given 9 centimeters, and I'm given the hypotenuse. Right? So, from SOHCAHTOA, I can't use SO because I don't have the opposite side. I can't use tan because I don't have the opposite side. The only option I have is to use cosine. So let's use cosine. Right? So let's go say cosine x is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Let's go plug in the values that we have. Our adjacent value we said was 9. Our hypotenuse we said was 15. Right? Equals cos x. I want to get that in a decimal. So cos x is equal to, if we do 9 divided by 15, it's going to give us 0.6. Then I want to get the x on its own, so I got to get rid of the cos. Inverse cosine. I'm going to go into my calculator and put that in. Clear all. Second function, 0.6. And it has to be second function. If you don't put second function, it won't work. And our answer is 53.13. So let's go ahead and put that in. So x is equal to 53.13 degrees. I like to round them up always, or round down. In this case, we round down, so it's 53 degrees. And always write a therefore statement. So write, therefore, angle x is 53 degrees. And I like to just circle it for myself. That took up a lot of space, so I'm just going to continue down here with the next one. Right here we were going to do the same steps, except now I'm going to streamline a little. I'm not going to write them all out. So let's go find our angle. Let's go label. Opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent, right? So let's see what we're given. We're given adjacent is 18. Opposite equals 11. So from SOHCAHTOA, we don't have the hypotenuse, so I can't use any of those. I need to use tan, right? So tangent x is equal to opposite over adjacent, right? So tan x, our opposite side is 11, our adjacent side is 18. Let's go do that math and just divide them. Is equal to 0.61111. How do I get rid of the tan? I gotta do the inverse. Right, so then x is equal to, let's go put that in. Clear, and again, I have to go to second function, tan inverse, and I'm going to put in 0.6111111, and it's 31.4, so x is equal to 31.4, we're just going to round it to 31 degrees. And always go in and write in your therefore statement, therefore, angle x is 31 degrees. And that's how you do that. So this is how to do finding an angle if you're given two sides of a triangle. For our next lesson, what we're going to be doing is how to find an angle or a side if you're given one side, one angle. Okay? Alrighty, so that is how you do that. Your homework, again, is posted under lesson 4. It is a worksheet. And then I just need you to hand this in, and that's really it. I'll see you tomorrow.